Gerber Legendary Blades started with a Christmas gift in 1939, became a military icon, and then quietly moved most of its production to China while still trading on its Portland heritage. This is that story. Gerber Legendary Blades has been headquartered in Portland, Oregon since 1939. 86 years in the same city, which is a lineage almost no American tool company can match. But here's the number that complicates the narrative. Only about 22% of Gerber's products are actually made in Portland today. The rest are manufactured overseas, primarily in China. And the product line that made Gerber a household name for an entire generation of consumers, the Bear Grylls Survival Series, never touched American soil during production. To understand how we got here, you have to go back to the beginning, and the beginning is genuinely charming. In 1910, the Gerber family launched an advertising firm in Portland, Oregon. For nearly 3 decades, that's all they were, an ad agency. Then in 1939, Joseph Gerber decided to send 24 sets of handmade kitchen knives to his clients as holiday gifts. He partnered with a blacksmith named David Murphy to craft them. This was a promotional gesture, nothing more. A nice Christmas present from your ad man. But those knives were exceptional. Word got around fast. Abercrombie Fitch, which at the time was a legitimate outdoor outfitter and catalog retailer, came calling. They wanted more of those knives to sell. And just like that, Joe Gerber was no longer in the advertising business. He was in the knife business. Joe brought his sons Pete and Ham on board, and together they transformed a small kitchen knife operation into something with real ambition. Ham, who took over as company president after World War II, had a flair for branding that you'd expect from a family raised in advertising. He started naming the kitchen knives after legendary blades from mythology and literature. Balmung, the mythical Norse sword used to slay a dragon. Excalibur, King Arthur's blade from the Lady of the Lake. It was brilliant marketing, and it's exactly where Gerber Legendary Blades earned its full name. Through the 1950s and into the 1960s, Gerber pivoted hard. They abandoned kitchen knives entirely and focused on outdoor, hunting, and military blades. That's where the company's reputation was truly forged. In 1966, Gerber introduced the Mark II, a fighting knife designed by retired Army Captain Bud Holtzman. Holtzman was no desk jockey. He'd served with the 101st Airborne during World War II and earned a Bronze Star for gallantry under enemy fire. His design for the Mark II drew from the Roman Mines Gladius, and it became the second most famous combat knife carried by American troops in Vietnam, behind only the K-bar. The Mark II became particularly popular with Mac VSOG special operations teams running covert missions across Southeast Asia, and its reputation in those circles is a big part of why it became legendary. The Mark II was so effective and so brutal that military base exchanges actually pulled it from shelves in the 1970s. The reasoning was that the knife was not in good taste, or simply too brutal. A knife designer named Al Marr, who was working for Gerber at the time, cleverly added sawtooth serrations near the hilt and rebranded it as a survival aid. The exchanges resumed selling it, now categorized as a survival knife rather than a fighting knife. Same blade, different story. The advertising roots of this company run deep. The Mark II also seeped into pop culture. Mel Gibson carried one in The Road Warrior. It appeared in the mess hall knife game scene in Aliens. The Winter Soldier wielded one against Captain America in the 2014 Marvel film. For decades, this was Gerber's calling card. Meanwhile, Gerber was also shaping the everyday carry movement before anyone was calling it that. In 1980, they introduced the LST, a folding knife with a locking blade, co-designed with legendary knife maker Blackie Collins. Collins was ahead of his time. He's credited with inventing the assisted opening mechanism that would later become standard in modern tactical folders. The knife community today largely recognizes the LST as the grandfather of the modern EDC knife category. Then in the early 1990s, Gerber launched the Multiplier, its first multi-tool, entering direct competition with Leatherman, another Portland company founded in 1983. Two of America's most important tool brands, separated by a few miles of Oregon highway. And while Buck Knives had long dominated the traditional lockback market and Benchmade would later claim the premium folder space, Gerber carved out something distinct: the military and survival niche. The pivotal year for Gerber's identity was 1987. That's when Finnish company Fiskars purchased Gerber. Fiskars, for context, was founded in 1649, which means they've been around longer than the United States has existed. Foreign ownership of an American manufacturer doesn't automatically mean offshoring, but that is exactly what happened here, gradually. Through the 1990s and 2000s, production began migrating overseas. The Portland factory kept running, but an increasing share of the catalog was manufactured in China. By 2003, Gerber still employed about 300 people in Portland and pulled in revenues near $100 million. They were the second largest multi-tool seller in the country behind Leatherman, and the largest maker of knives and multi-tools for the United States Armed Forces. Then came 2010, and the Bear Grylls collaboration changed everything. Bear Grylls was everywhere that year. His television show had made him the most recognizable survivalist on the planet, and Gerber signed him to design and endorse a line of survival knives and gear. The partnership became a commercial juggernaut. The Bear Grylls Ultimate Knife turned into a bestseller, and it was the product that put Gerber in the hands of casual outdoor consumers, people who had never bought a serious knife before. But the Ultimate Knife was made in China. It used 7 Series Timovi stainless steel, a perfectly serviceable but decidedly budget-tier Chinese steel. The construction was 3/4 tang. And to put that in context, a full tang blade runs the full length and width of the handle, giving you maximum strength and durability. 3/4 tang is solid enough for recreational use, but this was not the same caliber of manufacturing happening at the Portland facility. The Portland factory, by contrast, works with premium American steel grades like CPM S35 and 154 cm, the same steels you find in custom knives selling for $200 and up. The trade-off with the Bear Grylls line was price. You could buy the Ultimate for a fraction of what a Portland-made Gerber cost. The knife community noticed. Forum discussions grew pointed. One sentiment captured the frustration well. Gerber used to be a highly regarded multi-tool manufacturer, but have since moved production over to China. Quality has suffered tremendously. Others argued that Chinese manufacturing was the only way to offer capable tools at accessible prices. Gerber's premium products remained in Portland. The center drive multi-tool, widely considered one of the best in its class, is made there. The Gator premium fixed-blade hunting knives are made there. The Mark II, which returned to production in 2008, is still manufactured in Portland with a retail price of $115. The factory runs 24 hours a day, processes approximately 686,000 pounds of American steel per year, and operates as a zero-waste facility, recycling even the shavings from the sharpening process. But the reality is that most of what Gerber sells today, the folding knives, the budget multi-tools, the camp tools, the hatchets, is made overseas. When a company's most visible product line for nearly a decade wasn't made in the country it's associated with, that creates a real disconnect between brand identity and manufacturing reality. The Bear Grylls partnership ended around 2017. Grylls went on to launch his own standalone gear brand, all of it budget category, just as it had been under the Gerber umbrella. There was also the Gator Combo axe scandal. In 2005, Fiskars began receiving reports that the knife blade could detach from the axe handle during use, causing serious lacerations requiring stitches or surgery. The company didn't issue a recall until 2011, 6 years later, affecting roughly 103,000 units. In January 2015, Gerber agreed to pay a $2.6 million civil penalty for allegedly failing to report the hazard promptly. As CPSC Chairman Elliot Kay stated at the time, the sooner a firm informs CPSC about incidents or injuries with defective products, the quicker we can act to protect the American public. Today, Gerber is celebrating 85 years and looking ahead to 2026 with new product lines including the Nectar, a $35 folding knife made with 440 steel, and expanded camp kitchen systems. The Portland factory still stands. Nearly 300 employees still clock in. American steel still gets shaped into blades. But the brand that started with 24 handmade Christmas gifts now operates across a global supply chain. And the line between Portland heritage and Chinese manufacturing blurs a little more with every catalog release. Gerber isn't lying about its roots. It just isn't telling the whole story on the packaging.